What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? Happy Fugazi Friday. Hopefully everyone is having a great day. It looks like we got some football stuff to talk about. And I thought, we got a week calm before the storm right now. Couple things I want to hit on. So I thought, let's just do a little football rapid fire, hit on 5 topics. From Rodgers saying what he is willing to play for, to a coach talking about Travis Hunter's ability to go both ways. And Lee Corso officially has retired from College Gameday, the long-standing show on ESPN, and one of, I would say, the greatest pregame shows in the history of sports. If not, I mean, probably the greatest. My favorite, for sure. So we'll just go rapid fire, hit on a couple topics, get in and out of here. Nothing too crazy today on this Fugazi Friday. But before we dive in to Rodgers on McAfee, I got to tell you about my friends, my partners in the official ticketing app of this podcast. Listen, do you want to go to a game? Do you want to go to a concert? Do you want to go to a comedy show? Do you want to get out of the house and do something fun? Because we all do. Sometimes the monotony of life, just doing the same thing over and over, you got to mix it up. And that's where my friends at Game Time come through. So any game, college, pro, basketball, baseball, obviously during the football season, concerts. Concert season is about to kick off. It's heating up. The sun is coming out. You want to go outside. You want to go to a festival. You can search by arena. You can search by stadium. It doesn't get any easier by price point. Any concert, too, it's very, and I've used this countless times for concerts, easy to search by where the stage is so you can tell what your view is. It doesn't get any easier to use. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account. Use the code JOHN, that's JOHN, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Well, I watched what I thought was like going to be the whole Aaron Rodgers interview, and then he just went on, and I just clicked it off and did something else. It looks like Aaron Rodgers is still unsure. And to me, the funniest thing that happened today by far was when he told McAfee, he's like, I'm willing to play for 10 M's. Like, what did he just say? And then Pat was like, you're willing to play for 10 million? But the way he just nonchalantly, and it shows you, I mean, this is a guy who's made hundreds of millions of dollars to even rich people like, well, you're going to make $10 million. And it is a huge pay cut for him. But how he threw that out there is I audibly laughed. I was actually watching it on the Stairmaster because it was like, hey, I'm going to In-N-Out. You want something? You're like, yeah, get me 2 cheeseburgers. He's like, yeah, I'll just play for 10 M's. But while very funny, I do think, like, listen, I give him credit. Now I'm not acting like, even if he was dead set on playing and was really like, was already willing to show up because he didn't have off the field stuff going on. It's not like he was going to get 40, $50 million. But like coming into it, like I don't need that much money to play. We just saw Russell Wilson get what? $10.5 million guaranteed. And we know Russell Wilson isn't nearly as good as Aaron Rodgers. Now, both aren't nearly as good as they once were. But listen, I give the guy credit for it's pretty clear that if he does play, this is going to be his last year. And he's making it pretty easy on the teams that are somewhat interested in him. Pretty funny story about how he rented some, again, shitty car for him, Chevy Malibu. No hate to anyone out there driving Chevy Malibus. I drive a Chevy, so pro Chevys here. But how he tried to go in to the Pittsburgh Steelers, very under the radar, and clearly someone in that building, tipped, quote unquote, the press. But who knows? Like I left the portion of the interview that I watched thinking it's not guaranteed that he plays. And I think we're at the point where we're either getting one more Aaron Rodgers season, right? He ends up playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the New York Giants are clearly not happening. And Minnesota is kind of the curveball if they go back to him, after OTAs not being confident with McCarthy, with JJ McCarthy, or he just never plays again. He just never plays again. The big headline that's going viral is the Aaron Glenn. And, Aaron, I think dramatized. Now, in his point of view, Aaron Rodgers has never been fired, right? Aaron Rodgers has never been fired in a business where everyone gets fired, beside a tiny, tiny percentage of players that just retire on their own. But literally everyone else in his world, right? Coaches and players get fired. And I think he has never had that happen. Like the amount of players who have been called into the GM or head coach's office, whether it's a new head coach, whether it's a head coach that you've been playing for, and been told your services are no longer needed, we're going in a different direction, is the overwhelming majority of the league. I would say just about every coach in the league has been directly or indirectly fired working for a staff. Maybe the head coach was fired and they get fired because of it. But it happens all the time in football. And for Aaron, who has lived a pretty good life, like when you've been flying, in first class for 20 years and all of a sudden you're at the back of Spirit Airlines, it's like it would rattle any human being, right? So when he gets called into the office, and did it happen smoothly? Who knows? Is it ever easy to tell someone like you're done? And I know he was offended that they didn't pick his brain about everything. I just think once you're told like you're done, that just rattles the situation. Especially it's a new first time head coach. It's gonna be awkward, you know. Like welcome to the club, Aaron. People get fired in the NFL, and it took 20 plus years for this guy's career for it to happen. So it's a testament to how good he's been. But it ends. Uh, with the Jets. And listen, because it's the Jets, it's easy for him to take shots and, kind of flame it on the way out. And, he's probably, telling the truth. It would have been a lot more difficult for him to, it's like when he tried to give his side of the story. And one thing I would push back on Aaron loves playing like, I don't know what's going on. If it wasn't for my sister and my cousin and that other dude in my inner circle, I wouldn't know anything. I wouldn't know nothing. It's like, Aaron, I mean, we're all born at night. We weren't born last night. Like, come on, buddy. Let's to act like you don't have somewhat of a feel for what's being said about you is to me a little disingenuous at this point in time. Uh, and then he loves going on these like long drawn out and I get it. Like, listen, I have vendettas, and if I was him and a bunch of people talking shit about you, I get it. But he loves playing that if it wasn't for someone shooting him over the information, he would have no clue. It would just exist somewhere on the internet, and he'd be living his life with his dog Apollo. But 10 M's, man. He's willing to play for 10 M's. The NBA 82 game grind is done. And now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for the high-stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. Can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in games all the way through the finals. Now, the time to back your favorite players and teams as they chase glory. All season long, DraftKings has been your go-to spot for NBA player props, and that doesn't stop now. Want to make your playoff experience even more intense? Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will Curry drop 30? Will LeBron drop 40? Or more? It's your call. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, lock in your bets, and let's make the playoff run unforgettable. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get 200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. John Harbaugh. I got to give John Harbaugh credit. He said something that I have to agree with. And he said that he didn't think there were enough hours in the day to play both ways in the NFL. And I think, listen, we're all in agreement. What Travis Hunter accomplished last year is unprecedented. I mean, it's remarkable. It was a very deserving Heisman candidate. It was badass. Tip my hat. You're a badass, bro. That was sick. But to think that you're going to be able to do it in the NFL, and I hate just naturally taking like you can't do this. I hate that mindset, right? Of just like you can't, because I think you can get into very. I think negative people tend to have that, but I also think sometimes in life you got to be realistic, right? And go, yeah, I think this is borderline impossible to like be a full time player on both sides of the ball. And what Harbaugh was saying is like defense, and he's a defensive guy. My take has simply been the amount of talent at wide receiver in the NFL is has never been higher in terms of team by team. So just look at his own division. He's got DK Metcalf, assuming let's say the Browns take him. It's like, well, we're playing the Bengals week 1 and the Steelers week 2. It's like, who you got? He's like, well, this week you got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Then you got, assuming he tries, George Pickens and DK Metcalf. Godspeed. I mean, it's like it's this isn't the Big 12. As Dan Hawkins said, welcome to the Big 12, brother. And I think to be able to do that and what some guys have done in the past of just going on to play wide receiver and running the occasional go route is a lot different than playing 40, 50 snaps also on offense and running routes constantly, blocking constantly, running routes that are basically decoys. So it just means you're flying down the field. I think it's borderline impossible. And I don't even think it's from a mental standpoint. Obviously, it would be a lot. From a physical standpoint at that level, I would say this in a weird way. And listen, I don't blame him. He's so young. It's not like he's ever played in the NFL. But for anyone that says like, no, not only can he do it, he should do it, and he'll be good at it. To me, that's kind of like almost offensive to the guys at the highest level in the NFL. Like if I was Jamar Chase or I was DK Metcalf, it's like, wait, you think you can split practice reps and fucking cover me, right? If I'm Patrick Surtain or whoever on defense, it's like, wait, you think you've been screwing around on defense and now you're going to get open on me? You know this is all I do. Like I got 80 million in the bank. I got 3 Pro Bowls. I was second in the defensive player of the year. I got 7 Range Rovers, 2 homes because this is what I do. And I think you got to be very careful about just thinking these things are as easy as what just happened. I would put more, you know, more behind it if he would just have done that in the SEC. But I'm sorry, I would say the Big 12 by far is the worst conference of the group. And the talent in that conference is just not even remotely close to what he's about to walk into, assuming that he gets drafted by the Cleveland Browns. So we'll see how it plays out. But I'm in agreement with John Harbaugh. Not possible. Andrew Barry said something. It really, I wish I get why he didn't do it, but if Lamar had run the 40 when he was coming out at the combine, he definitely, I'm sure, I mean, he was probably a little lighter then. Probably the fastest he's ever been was early on in his career. He's clearly still really fast, but that college version of Lamar and then like that first year or two, Lamar Jackson was, I don't know, 4.25. And Andrew Barry said something today, which I get it. He's propping the guy up, and Jalen Milroe is going to the draft. Like Jalen Milroe, I don't know exactly how this works. I've never worked, at ESPN, at NFL Network, how they talk with the draft prospects. I think clearly they've tried to shrink the group that goes, but I don't think it's just randomly like, hey, Jalen, you want to go to the draft? It's like, oh, I might get drafted in the third or fourth round. Not saying he's going to go in the first round, but there's clearly some momentum and buzz about his physical attributes. Like you talk about a big project. I mean, we have seen way less talented quarterbacks get drafted from pick 15 to 30 in the last 10 plus years. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to be any good. It doesn't mean his flaw of some accuracy issues, but just in terms of what, to mold a piece of clay, it happened with Josh Allen, whatever, 6, 7 years ago. So people are going to like this guy as a project with freakish talent. And Andrew Barry said that he might be the one guy that's immediately faster than Lamar. And he ran a 4.40 at the combine. Jalen Milroe is a freak athlete, can fly. But and listen, Lamar's whatever, 28, 29 years old. Uh, he's probably not like if he just ran the 40, it'd still be fast, but would he run of what he would have 5 years ago? I just wish he would have ran it because I think we'd be talking like, remember when Lamar Jackson ran a 4.26 at the combine or a 4.31? Because I'll promise you this early on, Lamar Jackson was faster than 4.40. No question in my mind. If you listened yesterday, we had Jake Dickert, the former Washington State coach who's now at Wake Forest, on the podcast. He was really good. Impressive guy. Easy guy to root for. Coach Cam Ward for a couple years. Last year, Coach John Mateer, who's now at Oklahoma, who was the big transfer portal guy this year. And it was really interesting to hear him talk about like how I mean clearly he's really into having a personnel department. He's got a GM that he brought from Washington State that he clearly leans on. And I was thinking about this in the pros, there aren't any rules, right? I mean, technically, I think as a scout, when you go into college, you're not supposed to talk to like a freshman, sophomore, a guy that's not draft eligible, right? Especially about like draft prospects. I mean, you can run into them in the hallway and bullshit with them. It's not like you're going to get arrested by the NFL, but there are some rules. Not that it really matters, but for the most part, if like a GM wants to go to a college football game, if a coach wants to go to a college football game, anyone can go to these programs during the week. It's actually on the college to be like, yeah, we're actually closed this week. But for the most part, anyone at any time from the NFL can either set up a time to go see players, can just go see the players during the week. It's very easy. It's an open door policy. I remember the running joke was during the Nick Saban era is like, it is by far the most pro friendly program in the country. If a scout wanted to come to the building at 3:30 in the morning, Alabama would have someone to open the door for you at 3:30 in the morning. And in college, it's different. Yet now we have these GMs all over the country that are clearly playing big jobs in the program. I mean, I don't know how many of them there are, but there are definitely a handful that are making over $1 million to be GMs. And then the majority of the country is probably making between 500 and $1 million. So all these Power Four programs, these guys are making a lot of coin because their job now is really, really important. Yet during the fall, and I always thought this was kind of not just crazy, but also difficult. Your your scouts in college football historically have always been the coaches. So sometimes, in my experience, you would play on like a Saturday. And sometimes by the time you got to Thursday, you would send some coaches out on the road. Like if you were at Fresno State or Cal or USC, you might not go to New Jersey or Florida, but it would be pretty easy to go, I don't know, 30 minutes away, a couple hours away, maybe even fly up the state and watch a high school game that Friday, even though you were playing the next day. And if you have access to, you know, private transportation in the air or it's driving distance, you just come back, meet the team either that night or the next morning to get ready for the game, assuming that you're playing at home. And sometimes on the road, you do the same thing, like go hit, if you're playing somewhere in Texas or Arizona or an area where you're recruiting kids, you go see players, but that's difficult. You're trying to get ready for a game and you're going to watch a high school game. That doesn't happen in the pros because think about it. Your coaches don't leave the team during the fall. They don't even get in the draft process till like a month or two before. Your scouts do that. So why do the rules? It shows you how archaic this is, and it needs to change. And Dickert was all over it. It's like these GMs and personnel departments should be able during the season on a Friday night all over the country, whoever you're recruiting, be able to go attend those games and talk to the kids and talk to their family, just like a coach, a head coach, a coordinator, or a position coach would be able to. It would actually make everything so much easier on the program. And I would imagine over the next couple of years, it's inevitable that that is the end result. But right now, for that still being quote unquote illegal feels kind of laughable. I remember, I don't remember, I mean, it was just a couple weeks ago, but when the national championship was going on, you're seeing Kelvin Sampson. He's coaching Houston. They're obviously, I mean, they probably should have won that won that game. But I remember when he got fired. And if you remember what he got fired for, it was for texting people. And once upon a time, you were not allowed to text recruits. Think how insane that is. I mean, think how crazy that is. I was just watching a clip from Lane, who went on Theo Vaughn's podcast. Sneaky, pretty funny. Theo is. Lane looks skinny, sober. He's just doing yoga. And Lane was like, back in the day, you could follow a guy on Twitter or Instagram. It was a period in which I couldn't text the player, but I could shoot him a DM. And this is the downfall of the NCAA, which is clearly crumbling day by day, minute by minute, is they became so bureaucratic and so like the things that they stood for and created started to make no sense. Because listen, there are always going to be rules that people are going to disagree with. It starts when you're a young kid, right? Even if there's merit behind it, even if there is like, this is the right thing to do, people push back against rules. Welcome to life. But there also is a time where it's like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. Like, this is insane. What are we doing? I get, like, in theory on the whiteboard, but in practice right now, this got to stop. I remember people, my friends that lived in San Francisco during 2020, when you could not go outside and the parking tickets, like, you couldn't go anywhere. And they were getting parking tickets on a daily basis. Like, guys, everything is shut down. Like, you need to stop this. And this feels like one of those situations. It's like, we need to rip this up right now because a GM and a personnel guy at a college should be able to recruit a high school player. Honestly, they should be able to go into the player's living room and have dinner like a position coach would. And last but not least, it was announced today that Lee Corso, the legendary, iconic figure for ESPN, is retiring. And I was reading a little bit about like this college game day officially started in 1987. I mean, that's pretty crazy. We're just a couple years away from that show being 40 years old. But for the first 6 years of the show, they didn't go on the road. So I think early on that show, they were in studio. And then in 1993, they started doing what they've been doing forever now is go to these big games and make it a big production. And over the last, what, 20 plus years, uh, I feel like one of the biggest sports shows. You could argue College Game Day and NBA on TNT with Barkley and Ernie and Kenny, are probably the two biggest pre-post game type shows of my lifetime. And I think I was thinking about this, for a long time. Sometimes I'll see clips from like ESPN radio or something on ESPN. It's like, who the hell is that? Like, what? Who are they promoting at that company? And it kind of hit me today, like that company is not going to create stars anymore. And when I was a kid at ESPN, the stars that were created under the umbrella of the four-letter network was pretty remarkable. And those days are done. Like, they don't get credit for Pat McAfee. He just did his show and they just added it to him. They had nothing to do with him, right? They hired his show and they don't even get to touch it. And if you think about probably two of their biggest guys in the network, Stephen A. Smith and Scott Van Pelt. I mean, I think Stephen A. Smith's 58 years old. I think Scott Van Pelt's over 55 years old. The young talent and the young stars, or just people that are going to be stars, like those days are dead. And Lee Corso and Dick Vitale are two examples of. Now, these were former coaches, but they went to ESPN after their coaching careers ended / they pivoted, and they became the faces of the network for college football and college basketball. And if you think about it, like the two guys, there's really four guys when I think college football and college basketball that are synonymous with ESPN. It's Jay Billis and Dick Vitale, and Kirk Herbstreit and Lee Corso. But when you think about the four guys, Herbstreit and Billis are very similar. Good looking guys, very professional, just really high level guys, former players at really high levels. Herbstreit, quarterback, Ohio State. Billis, Coach K, Duke, mid 80s. Yet when you close your eyes and think about the two big stars of the network for those brands, it was the guys with the huge personalities. And I just saw a clip, not a clip, but an article where Lee Corso early on told Tim Brando, I want to become the Dick Vitale of college football. And one thing with Dickie V, just like Lee Corso, is they were a huge, huge part of the explosion of the game. and the explosion of celebrating the sport. And listen, I love golf, and they use this term a lot with Live and the PGA Tour and YouTube golf of like growing the game. I do think Lee Corso and Dick Vitale, who obviously Dickie V has been battling cancer. I mean, Lee Corso has two things can be true. Today is a celebration day. It's an awesome day to just celebrate this great show, this great man, this iconic figure in the business. And rolling him out the last couple years, and I understand it's never easy to end with a legend, right? And this transition has been tough, but them rolling him out the last couple years has been very, very difficult to watch. And there have been times where it's like kind of sad, right? It's like, how are they putting him on television right now? And they clearly have been trying to transition the last couple years, adding Saban last year, adding McAfee the last couple years, trying to get a younger vibe, and Lee's done less and less. But now it's officially over, and like Saban is good, but it's not the same. There's an element, and I think what they tried to do is basically McAfee and Saban were like combined into one to equal Lee Corso, and it's just hard because there's only one original, and the same thing with Dickie V. Like they didn't replace Dickie V. There's no replacing Dickie V. There's no replacing Lee Corso. Now I think Lee, I don't. Who knows what he'll be able to say on his last show, but the game is in a better place, and it's as popular as ever because of everything that's going on. Even if it's kind of weird with the NIL, with the 12 team playoff, that's probably going to expand even more. I mean, we got a lot of moving parts here, but when I think college football, one of the first things I think of is College Game Day. And obviously, a guy putting on the mascot at the end of that show as we go in and transition into the first games of the day. He was a massive, massive part of most of our lives that love the sport.